5 things I think you should know about this powerful full moon and lunar eclipse happening November 8th, 2022. Number 1, I wrote down, it's gonna sound kind of funny, letting your freak flag fly. You might find it more difficult during this period to not be your true, authentic, maybe unique self. As people go through a spiritual awakening, the main result is self-discovery. But sometimes that self that we discover seems a little bit odd. It seems a little bit strange. It can be surprising. And oftentimes what starts to come up, this uniqueness, we look around at the world, at our friends and our family and the people we're around in our life, and we think, oh my, they're not going to accept the real me. And what I'm saying is, sorry to be the bearer of, I guess not so bad news, but I would expect that regardless of what you think and regardless of what other people think, you're going to find it very difficult to not let your freak flag fly, to not be your true full self, because it'll become so apparent that life will improve and you will find happiness when you just allow yourself to be yourself regardless of what other people think. And I know it's not easy. You know, I went through most of my life with this pretty fixed identity. As I shared many times, I was a personal trainer. Not only that, but even in high school, I was really in shape and I worked out a lot, and everyone I hung around knew me as the personal trainer guy, and it was like very hardwired into my identity. And like 10 years later, I owned a gym that was my identity and my career. And what started to emerge, which is very reminiscent of this type of energy, was this desire to get onto YouTube. This desire to share about my spiritual journey, which at that point I had not really talked about with anybody except my wife, because I knew it was not going to really land with people. So I suppressed it for quite some time, but eventually it became impossible to not be myself on YouTube. But once I really allowed myself to just sort of accept and come to terms with, regardless of who you've been up until now, this is who you are in the moment. And it's just so tiresome to suppress it. Once I started sharing freely on YouTube, which was in a sense me committing to my real self, then my entire life changed. I moved out of state. I started making a lot more money. My entire career was completely transformed. I became a spiritual coach, a YouTuber, and my entire life upgraded multiple notches in absolutely all levels, on all levels. And beyond that, even more sacred to me, is once I really committed to being my true self, as weird as I thought it was, some spiritual YouTube guy doing energy update, I thought it was strange. But I just did it, and what happened beyond the things I just mentioned was I started to attract new people into my life. What I would call, for lack of a better term, soulmate relationships. People that I have a genuine love and a resonance with that doesn't even make any sense. I have a best friend now. I went for a long time with no friends, except my family, which is no friends. And I have so many people. I'm going to be going out maybe in about an hour to see some other YouTuber friends that I met. And the point is, once I really allowed myself to let my own freak flag fly, sure, some people, they thought it was weird. Some of my high school friends, they probably see my videos and think it's a bunch of nonsense. Fine. But you know what? There's a lot of other people that say, oh, wow, I like the real Victor. I'm attracted to the real Victor. So my circle that's developed around me are people that know and actually enjoy the real me. And I've developed deeper bonds and relationships than I could have ever imagined. But it all stemmed from that uncomfortable choice to be myself, even though I knew it might go over in kind of an unusual way. But I'm telling you, I don't know if you have a choice at this point. I think the people that really suppress and continue to cling to who they know they're not are going to have some challenges, but that's not you. You're going to be one of the way showers. And maybe that's why it's so strange. Maybe it's not so strange. Maybe you're meant to just say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm into. And then what you're going to probably find are a lot of other people say, wow, I'm into that too, but I was so embarrassed about it. Thank goodness you're owning it. And then all these other people might come on board. Either way, regardless, it's the time to let your freak flag fly, and whatever that means for you in your life right now. Number 2, quite similar but a little different, is following your passion no matter what it is. Another thing is the authentic self likes to progress through life in a very non-linear way. So sometimes what you might find is your mind has these plans about, where you're trying to get yourself in life, goals you may have, but your passion is kind of like trying to steer you in a direction that doesn't make sense. It feels good, it resonates, but your mind can't currently understand how it is connected to like where you think you want to go. But it always is. And a lot of people, they disrupt this new but very natural process of very rapid progression through life because the mind just doesn't understand initially. Who comes to mind is my dear wife, Patty. I watched her go through a lot of different phases, we'll say. One day she woke up and she was certain she had to become a Reiki healer. By that time, we understood what Reiki was, but neither of us ever once talked about it. And all of a sudden she wakes up and she joined this class that just happened to be in my local community that weekend. So she became certified, and then she didn't do anything with it. And then that kind of like fizzled out. And then she became very intrigued with Ayurveda, the whole like it's a certain way of eating, I think developed in the East. And she became obsessed. She bought a bunch of books, bought courses. She was diagnosing the entire family, prescribing diets and all of that. And one could say, oh, okay, well, I guess this is who she's gonna be. This is where she's going with this. And guess what? That also fizzled out and was replaced by something else. This fondness of plant medicine and this long journey she's been on ever since. But what has emerged is something that doesn't yet have a label. Me and Patty, we run these retreats. And Patty is what I would label as an eclectic healer. Someone who has many different skill sets that in her own unique way has found a way to kind of harmonize into this new thing that doesn't yet have a name, but it's extremely powerful. I've seen her work magic with other human beings, the way she's able to pull from her resources in a very natural and organic way for the benefit of giving people what they need in that moment is amazing. So in the end, it all had a place. It all came together. So you might find yourself right now, the reason I'm saying this, similar to Patty, drawn in a direction that might seem unrelated. Another thing that comes to mind is my good friend Aaron Dowdy. Many of you know him on YouTube. We were on the boat the other day and he was like, Vic. And he had kind of this funny energy about him, like he was about to confess something. He was like, Vic. So I bought an acting course yesterday. I said, really? Cool. And he's reluctant to tell me that he's become obsessed overnight with acting. And you could say, well, Aaron, do you want to become an actor? And his answer is, no, I don't, Vic, but I'm fascinated by it. And what's really come from that is it's sort of given him kind of these unique skill sets over the last couple weeks or so to help people in ways he's already been helping people. It's like a unique way he can use to coach people. So there was, in the end, again, a very good and legitimate and logical and beneficial, worthwhile reason he felt drawn to obsess and geek out about acting for a short time. So my point is, if you just follow that passion wherever it leads, regardless of what you think, you can know that at some point it will become clear why that happened, but you don't have to know why to do it. And even more so, don't even do something just so it might work out for you. You might capitalize in the future. It's like, do it because you want to do it. Aaron was, once he allowed himself to talk about acting, you couldn't shut him up. He was just so excited, so much genuine, almost childlike enthusiasm was oozing out of him as he was talking about acting. So whether it led anywhere or not, even though it did, so what? Do your passion because it feels awesome to do so. Number 3, another challenge and yet blessing of when we allow ourselves to be ourselves and follow that thread of passion wherever it may lead, what we can run into is the blessing, and some people think curse, of what I call perfect timing. How many times have you set out to do something that you thought it is the time to do it, and ran into just a tremendous amount of resistance? I have it all the time. I had it like an hour ago with these videos. I'm going on vacation in 2 days. In a few hours, my parents come to stay with us until that time. I have a lot going on. I knew I had to film this energy update today. So I did a nice long, not long, but 20-minute meditation. I looked at my 5 things, and I turned on the camera, and it wasn't coming through. I was coming off very fatigued, very tired. I just knew. It was also, ironically, really cloudy out, and the lighting wasn't good. Now it's more sunny, and everything was kind of going wrong. There was some clatter in our dryer, which I know the audio here will pick up, and many little things were going on, and I felt like, boy, what's the deal? I was like questioning, why is all this happening? And the past me, the former me, what they would have done is they would have just bulldozed through. An hour later, still no video, exhaustion, anger, frustration, because I was asserting my will, saying, I know what needs to get done, even though there's a force within me, within you, within every human being, way wiser, with way more foresight, that really knows what actually needs to get done and when it needs to get done. So anyway, I gave up on it. I knew, I've learned, Vic, don't push it. And I went and I worked out, went to my sauna, and I feel great. I feel like, okay, that's why. Even in the sauna, I adjusted a few things. So now it feels in alignment. So you might find yourself running into perfect timing that may conflict with what you think the timing should be. But what I've learned is that just like you can be yourself, just like you can trust the flow of your passion, you can also trust the timing of things, even if you don't understand it. Number 4, standing up to your own inner critic that might get a little bit more loud over this time period. A good little tip I'm going to share with you, I share whenever I run sometimes QHHT meditations, which is quantum healing hypnosis technique developed by Dolores Cannon. It's a past life regression, essentially. And when I was taking Dolores Cannon's certification program, she was really clear and sort of like consistent with putting forth this notion. And the notion is, when people are about to do a past life regression, what can happen is their inner critic would get very loud, similar to what I'm picking up right now. And she had a very special name for the inner critic. And you want to know what it was? It's Mr. Stupid. And it always would get a laugh out of the class. And I always share it. I say, listen, you're about to go into this past life regression. Don't be surprised if Mr. Stupid shows its head. Mr. Stupid likes to come in anytime we're going to do something different. Anytime we're going to step outside of our little box of our norm. And right now, this full moon and eclipse, it's like trying to stretch you all over the place. Random, tangent passions, authentic freak flags waving in the air, perfect timing, driving me bananas. So it's like all this stuff is happening, and you might find your inner critic just going crazy, going haywire. But right now, there's this golden window. You are conscious enough. You've grown enough to become aware of the illogical, suppressive, negative, generally, nature of the inner critic, of the monkey mind, of Mr. Stupid. And you might find yourself realizing that you, the greater you, has a say in the matter. And you might find yourself able, maybe for the first time in your entire life, to say no to your conditioning, that you know is conditioning. Before, most of us were fairly unconscious, pulled through life reactive from our conditioning, but now we can see what is us. It's very clear now, and what is conditioning. So now, even though there might be a lot of momentum with this conditioning, we have a choice. You have a choice. And before I go on, I'm going to give one quick example that happened to me just a few nights ago. I found myself unable to sleep because right before going to bed, I just had this random thought pop in my head about my business, and it sort of took me in this downward spiral of worry. I worry a lot. Most of my friends know that. And I was worried about money, worried about my business, worried about just feeling very kind of unsafe in my reality. But I was like looking around and I knew better. I knew that I am safe. I knew there's really, truly nothing to worry about. And all that happened was some random thought just like reminded me of something in the past, and it pulled in to my moment all of these old emotions, these old feelings of fear and anxiety. And it was like, I knew it wasn't really substantial. And anyway, it didn't go away though, and I went to bed. And as I was going to bed, I found myself just ruminating and worrying and thinking in my mind. I had one of those songs stuck in my head. My mind just became so overactive. And the greater self of me was a little bit annoyed because it knew this is all predicated on nonsense. There's no problem here. There's no issue. But my inner critic wouldn't shut the hell up. Mr. Stupid would not get out of my head. But I found myself laying there, hour after hour went by, still no sleep. The more that happened, the more momentum the monkey mind achieved, and I finally just, in like a single moment, just had this realization. I can't even really put it into words, but it was more like an awareness of who I really am. And who I really am does not need to be afraid. Who you really are is plenty. It's phenomenal. It has the resources, it has the experience, it has the strength, it has the guidance to weather any storm, real or not real. It has everything you need to progress you forward. And just laying in bed, I just became aware of all that, and almost as if I spoke it out loud. In my mind, I was like, no more. You shut the hell up and get out of my head. I'm done with you. I'm not feeding you with my attention for another split second. Good luck surviving without my attention. And anyway, this all went on in my head. I went to bed, I slept like a baby. And ever since then, I've been feeling like I finally have more strength. Enough strength to not allow that inner critic or Mr. Stupid to dig its heels in as much as it once used to. So you might find yourself, if you find yourself getting kind of triggered and feeling really squirrely, step back and ask yourself, is there really a problem? Or does this scenario maybe just remind me of a problem I once experienced, but they're like different things? And when you have that space of awareness, then you have a say in the matter. You can also stand up to your own inner critic. And man, how liberating is that? It's phenomenal. Number 5, as I already kind of mentioned, the underlying theme, the why to all of this is allowing yourself to be your true glorious self. I like to do this modality. It's a healing modality called somatic release breath work. And I believe it was like maybe a couple of sessions ago, maybe 6 months ago, I was doing a session. And what this modality does, it puts you into this kind of like hyperventilated state and allows you to generally access all your trauma and like yell it out or cry it out. You probably have seen me, I sometimes take people through them online, these ceremonies, and I go through them myself. And anyway, what was coming up, ironically, to be expressed was not the mother wound or traumas from my childhood. It was joy. I found myself becoming aware that there's all this energy of joy that wants to be expressed. And I realized when that was happening, like I was like questioning, why is this even happening? And it dawned on me that I suppress joy. I suppress happiness. I don't allow myself to be what I am most of the time. But in that ceremony, I let it out. I found myself with this compulsion to be like, wahoo! Like a little kid, I was like celebrating, yelling out these wails of excitement and joy and like just happiness. And it felt so weird. And yet, as I was doing it, I realized this is who I actually am. These energies are part of me. And I say all that because it's a metaphor for what you might be going through as well, realizing that just to the degree in which you suppress your true glorious self, And when we just finally stop doing that, it's like we've been trying to go through life, our foot on the gas and the other foot on the brake. It's not that we need like to supercharge our vehicle or to get new tires. It's like we just got to take the freaking foot off the brake. And then things accelerate massively when you really allow yourself to be your true self. And there are always layers of this. You will find that you will attract different people into your life. You might have a lot of insights and breakthroughs with even current relationships and how to make them better. You will attract more abundance, more material abundance as well into your life. You'll attract all the different cool ideas to help you really start being able to spend your time doing more of your hobbies and passions and your purpose. And your life scenario will also advance and upgrade itself to reflect the true you that this whole time has been there, but again, heavily suppressed, buried under conditioning. And these full moons and eclipses, they can be so intense. They can be so uncomfortable. And I know for a long time I would dread them. I'd say, oh God, I can already feel the moon coming. This is going to be a problem to deal with, or a storm to weather. And sometimes they're pretty stormy. But I've learned that all it's trying to do is uncover more and more and more of who we are. It's trying to liberate you from yourself. And before I go, my friends, I want to share with you a tip, something that might help you during this period. I wrote down 2 words: self-care. A lot of times we will become aware of imbalances in our life through fatigue, through getting a cold. For me, I've been struggling in my own workouts, wondering what the heck's going on. And all these things can seem, a lot of people blame them on the moon and the astrology, and maybe there's a correlation, but I find they all are clues to how we can be going through life in a more effective way. And a lot of times these physical ramifications of our misalignment, again, are clues and can help us do things a bit more wisely. Maybe take some more time for ourselves. Maybe get back to the gym or the yoga studio, or maybe stop eating ice cream at night and have a smoothie instead. These little tweaks you might feel like you should do during this time, I recommend you do it, because it's going to really help you. Because the true self, that true uninhibited real self, it's kind of a powerful energy force, and our body can take time to get used to it. And we can't really tolerate poor unconscious habits to the same degree as before, because it'll react more strongly. That's why so many people become fatigued a lot after a big spiritual awakening. It's just because there's so much energy, and it's a calling for us to arrange our life accordingly, to really be in harmony with our habits, with our flow of our day-to-day stuff, our engagements, to be in harmony with our true potential, amazing, glorious self. With that said, my friends, thank you for watching. If you want to see more of these messages, I don't make a lot of YouTube videos these days, a couple a month, as you may have seen, but I do have a newsletter I send out with these exact type of energy update type of messages. I'll leave a link down below. If you want to join, it's free. I usually email 2 to 3 times a week, just inspired messages that instead of making a YouTube video, I write it to you and it goes right to your email inbox. It's totally free. There's about 60,000 people, I would say, right now on the newsletter, and it's a fantastic vibe, and I welcome you to join. I'll leave a link down below. With that said, see you next time, my friends. Have an amazing day. Peace.